First contact. The day the skies darkened over every major city on Earth was the day humanity realized it was no longer alone in the universe. It was a Tuesday, unremarkable in every way until the massive ships appeared, hovering silently above the skylines of New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, and dozens of other metropolitan centers. Dr. Elena Reyes, lead xenobiologist at NASA, stared at the screens in mission control, her coffee forgotten in her hand. "My God," she whispered, watching as the alien vessels maintained their positions, seemingly waiting. "Dr. Reyes," a voice crackled through her earpiece, "the President needs you in the Situation Room. Now." As Elena rushed through the corridors of the White House, her mind raced with possibilities. First contact. The moment scientists like her had dreamed of for centuries. But as she entered the Situation Room, the grim faces that greeted her suggested this wasn't going to be the joyous occasion she'd imagined. President Amelia Chen stood at the head of the table, her normally composed demeanor showing signs of strain. "Dr. Reyes, what are we dealing with here?" Elena took a deep breath. "Madam President, based on the limited data we've gathered, these ships are far beyond our technological capabilities. Their method of arrival suggests mastery of faster-than-light travel, and their ability to bypass our detection systems is concerning." The Secretary of Defense, a gruff man named General Harrison, interjected. "Can we fight them?" Elena shook her head. "With what we have, it would be like throwing rocks at a tank." The room fell silent, the weight of humanity's vulnerability settling on everyone's shoulders. Suddenly, every screen in the room flickered to life. A face appeared, if you could call it that. It was vaguely humanoid, with large, almond-shaped eyes that seemed to glow from within. Its skin was a pale blue, almost translucent, and where a mouth should have been, there were small, pulsating tendrils. "People of Earth," the alien spoke, its voice resonating not through the speakers, but directly in their minds. "We are the Zarkov. We come seeking alliance." The room erupted in a flurry of whispers and exclamations. President Chen raised her hand, silencing everyone. "Why have you come to Earth?" she asked, her voice steady despite the extraordinary circumstances. The alien's eyes seemed to flicker with something akin to fear. "We face a threat that endangers not just our species, but all sentient life in the galaxy. We have traveled far, seeking allies in this fight. Your world, hidden on the fringes of the galaxy, may be our last hope." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What could possibly threaten a civilization capable of such advanced technology? Over the next few hours, as the world held its collective breath, the Zarkov shared their story. A parasitic race known as the Void Eaters had been consuming entire planets, assimilating all life forms into their hive mind. The Zarkov had been fighting a losing battle for centuries, watching as world after world fell to this insidious enemy. "But why us?" General Harrison demanded. "We're centuries behind you technologically. What can we possibly offer?" The alien's response was unexpected. "You possess something unique in the galaxy: unpredictability. Your species' ability to innovate, to think outside established patterns, is unparalleled. We believe this might be the key to defeating the Void Eaters." As the gravity of the situation sank in, Elena found herself volunteering to be part of the first diplomatic team to board the Zarkov ship. Alongside her were Captain Michael Jong, a decorated Air Force pilot, and Dr. Aisha Okafor, a brilliant quantum physicist. As they prepared to depart, Elena caught sight of the crowds gathering outside the White House gates. Fear, excitement, and wonder were etched on every face. She realized that humanity stood on the precipice of a new era, one that would test their resilience, ingenuity, and courage like never before. The shuttle ride to the Zarkov mothership was surreal. As they approached, Elena marveled at the organic curves of the alien vessel, so different from the utilitarian designs of human spacecraft. It seemed to pulse with an inner light, as if alive. Inside, they were greeted by a Zarkov elder named Excelfor. "Welcome, humans," The aliens' thoughts echoed in their minds. We have much to discuss and little time. The Void Eaters approach, and we must prepare. As Selthor led them through the ship, explaining Zarkoth technology and the nature of the threat they faced, Alina's scientific mind was in overdrive. The bioengineering alone was centuries beyond anything humans had achieved. Yet she noticed the Zarkoth watching them with what seemed like hopeful curiosity. "Your adaptability is remarkable," Selthor commented as Captain Jung quickly grasped the basics of their propulsion system. "In all our travels, we've never encountered a species quite like yours." Dr. Okafor, who had been studying a holographic display of Void Eater attack patterns, spoke up. "These parasites, they seem to follow strict algorithmic behaviors. Have you tried introducing chaos into their systems?" The Zarkoth equivalent of surprise rippled through Selthor's tendrils. "Chaos? Our entire civilization is built on order and prediction. The concept of intentional chaos is unsettling." Alina saw a spark of excitement in Aisha's eyes. "But that's exactly why you need us. We thrive on chaos, on thinking outside the box. It's how we've survived and evolved on our own chaotic world." As the humans continued to offer fresh perspectives and unconventional ideas, Alina could sense a growing excitement among the Zarkoth. For the first time in centuries, it seemed, they had hope. However, their discussion was abruptly interrupted by a blaring alarm. Selthor's eyes widened in fear. "They're here. The Void Eaters have found us." The ship shuddered as something massive emerged from hyperspace nearby. Through the viewscreen, Alina saw a sight that would haunt her dreams for years to come, a writhing mass of darkness, punctuated by millions of glowing, hungry eyes. As panic threatened to overwhelm her, Alina felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Captain Jung, his face set with determination. "Well, doctors," he said with a grim smile, "looks like it's time to put our human unpredictability to the test." In that moment, facing an enemy that threatened not just humanity but all life in the galaxy, Alina realized that this was what they had been preparing for all along. Every challenge humans had faced, every obstacle overcome, it had all led to this moment. With a deep breath, she turned to Selthor. "All right," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Show us everything you know about these Void Eaters. It's time for humanity to do what it does best: adapt, overcome, and defy the odds." As they raced to formulate a plan, the Void Eaters loomed ever closer. The fate of Earth, the Zarkoth, and countless other civilizations now rested in human hands. The ultimate test of humanity's potential had begun, and failure was not an option. The Alliance. The Zarkoth mothership shuddered as the first wave of Void Eater attacks hit their shields. Inside the command center, Dr. Elena Reyes, Captain Michael Jung, and Dr. Aisha Okafor huddled with Selthor and other Zarkoth leaders, frantically working on a plan. "Our shields won't hold for long." Selthor's thoughts echoed, tinged with desperation. "We need a solution, now." Elena's mind raced. "Aisha, you mentioned introducing chaos into their systems. What exactly did you have in mind?" The quantum physicist's eyes lit up. "The Void Eaters operate on strict patterns, right? What if we could disrupt those patterns with random quantum fluctuations?" Captain Jung nodded. "Like jamming a radio signal, but on a quantum level." The Zarkoth looked at each other, their tendrils writhing in what Alina had come to recognize as confusion. "But how would we generate such fluctuations?" Selthor asked. Aisha grinned. "With a quantum eraser experiment, scaled up to massive proportions. We'd need to modify your shield generators to emit entangled particles." As Aisha explained her theory, Alina marveled at how quickly humans and Zarkoth were learning to work together. The aliens' advanced technology combined with human creativity was proving to be a formidable combination. Hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. The ship rocked with each Void Eater assault, but slowly a plan took shape. As the modified shield generators came online, Captain Jung coordinated with Earth's military forces, preparing for the possibility that the battle might reach their home planet. Finally, it was time to test their makeshift quantum weapon. Elena held her breath as Aisha initiated the sequence. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, suddenly, the view screen lit up with a dazzling display of quantum chaos. The effect on the Void Eaters was immediate and stunning. The writhing mass of darkness began to convulse, its coordinated attacks faltering. Glowing eyes blinked out of existence as individual entities within the hive mind lost cohesion. "It's working," Elena exclaimed, hardly daring to believe it. But their victory was short-lived. As quickly as it had been disrupted, the Void Eater mass began to adapt, restructuring itself to resist the quantum interference. "They're learning," Selthor observed, a note of awe in his mental voice. "Never in our centuries of conflict have we seen them adapt so quickly." Captain Jung's face was grim. "Then we need to adapt faster. Dr. Okafor, can we modify the quantum eraser to generate new patterns?" Aisha nodded, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "Yes, but I'll need help. The calculations are too complex for me to handle alone." That's when Elena had an idea. What if we linked the quantum eraser to an AI? Something that could generate new patterns faster than any organic mind. The Zarkoth recoiled at the suggestion. Artificial intelligence. Zelthor's thoughts were tinged with fear. Such technology is forbidden. The risks of it turning against us are less than the certainty of the Void Eaters destroying us all, Elena interrupted. Sometimes, to survive, we have to take risks. After a tense debate, the Zarkoth reluctantly agreed. With their technology and human ingenuity, they quickly cobbled together an AI system, linking it to the quantum eraser. The result was beyond anything they had imagined. The AI, which Aisha nicknamed Chaos, began generating quantum interference patterns at an astonishing rate. The Void Eaters, for all their adaptability, couldn't keep up. Slowly but surely, their attack faltered, and then ceased altogether. As the dark mass retreated into the depths of space, a cheer went up from both humans and Zarkoth. They had won their first battle against an enemy that had seemed undefeatable. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. "They'll be back," she said softly. "And next time, they'll be prepared for our tricks." Zelthor nodded solemnly. "Indeed. But for the first time in centuries, we have hope. And we have you, humans, to thank for that." In the days that followed, as news of the victory spread across Earth and the Zarkoth Empire, a new era of cooperation began. The UN hastily convened a special session to formalize an alliance with the Zarkoth, while scientists and engineers from both species worked tirelessly to combine their knowledge and technologies. Elena found herself at the heart of this whirlwind of activity. As she coordinated research teams and acted as a liaison between human and Zarkoth scientists, she was constantly amazed by the rapid progress they were making. One afternoon, as she was reviewing plans for a joint human-Zarkoth space station, Captain Jung approached her. "Dr. Reyes," he said, his usually stoic face showing signs of excitement, "I think you'll want to see this." He led her to a hangar where a sleek new spacecraft stood. It was clearly of Zarkoth design, but Elena could see human influences in its structure. "The Zarkoth call it the Harmony," Jung explained. "It's the first ship built by our joint efforts. Faster, more maneuverable, and better armed than anything either of our species has produced before." Elena ran her hand along the ship's smooth surface, marveling at the warm, almost organic feel of the alien alloy. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "And it's just the beginning," a familiar mental voice added. Elena turned to see Selthor approaching, accompanied by Dr. Okafor. "We've been discussing the next phase of our alliance," Aisha said, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "The Zarkoth have agreed to share their faster-than-light technology with us, in exchange for our help in developing more unconventional defense systems." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Unconventional how?" Zelthor's tendrils writhed in what Elena had come to recognize as excitement. Your human entertainment, what you call science fiction, has given us many intriguing ideas, concepts our logical minds would never have conceived. Such as, Elena prompted, both curious and slightly apprehensive. Well, Aisha grinned, how do you feel about weaponized wormholes? As the group delved into discussions of impossible-sounding technologies made possible by the merger of human imagination and Zarkoth science, Elena felt a surge of pride and hope. Humanity had not only survived its first contact with alien life, but was thriving, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But even as they celebrated their newfound alliance and the technological leaps they were making, a shadow loomed in the back of Elena's mind. The Void Eaters were still out there, doubtless regrouping and evolving. And somewhere out in the vast expanse of the galaxy, other threats might be lurking. As if sensing her thoughts, Captain Zhang placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll be ready for them, he said quietly. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together, humanity and our new allies. Elena nodded, drawing strength from his confidence. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew that the combined strength, intelligence, and adaptability of humans and Zarkoth would be a force to be reckoned with. As she looked around at the diverse group of humans and aliens working together, Elena realized that this alliance was more than just a means of survival. It was the dawn of a new age for both their species, an age of exploration, innovation, and unity in the face of cosmic threats. The journey ahead would be perilous, but for the first time since the Void Eaters had appeared, the future looked bright. Humanity had found its place among the stars, and they were determined to shine brightly in the face of whatever darkness the universe might throw at them. The journey. The starship Harmony hummed with energy as it prepared for its maiden voyage. Dr. Elena Reyes stood on the bridge, gazing out at the vastness of space. Earth hung like a blue marble in the distance, a reminder of what they were fighting to protect. Final systems check complete. Captain Michael Zhang announced from the helm. We're ready for departure. Elena nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. This mission was unprecedented. A joint human Zarkoth expedition to track down the Void Eaters and hopefully find a way to stop them for good. Zelthor, their Zarkoth liaison, communicated telepathically with the crew. The quantum drive is primed. We can initiate faster than light travel at your command, Captain. Zhang took a deep breath. All right, let's make history. Engage quantum drive. The stars outside the view screen blurred into streaks of light, and Elena felt a momentary disorientation as the ship leaped into quantum space. They were on their way to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, following the trail of destruction left by the Void Eaters. As the journey progressed, Elena marveled at how quickly the human and Zarkoth crew members had adapted to working together. Dr. Aisha Okafor had formed a particularly close bond with the Zarkoth scientists, collaborating on further refinements to their quantum weapons. Weeks passed in the blink of an eye as they traveled deeper into uncharted space. The ship's eye, which they had dubbed Chaos, continued to evolve, becoming an integral part of their defense systems and research efforts. One day, as Elena was reviewing data in her quarters, an alarm blared through the ship. She rushed to the bridge to find the crew in a state of controlled panic. What's happening? She demanded. Zhang's face was grim. We've encountered some kind of spatial anomaly. It's interfering with our quantum drive. On the view screen, Elena saw a swirling vortex of energy, beautiful and terrifying in its intensity. The Harmony shuddered as it was pulled closer to the anomaly. Chaos. Elena called out to the AI. Can you analyze this phenomenon? The AI's calm voice filled the bridge. The anomaly appears to be a naturally occurring wormhole. However, its properties are unusual. There are signs of artificial manipulation. Zelthor's thoughts radiated concern. Could this be the work of the Void Eaters? Before anyone could respond, the ship was sucked into the wormhole. The bridge erupted in a cacophony of alarms and shouts as they were tossed through space-time. Moments later, they emerged in an unfamiliar star system. As the crew worked to stabilize the ship, Alina gasped at the sight before them. A massive structure floated in space, a ring-shaped megastructure that dwarfed anything she had ever seen. "Chaos, what are we looking at?" Zhang asked, his voice filled with awe. The eye was silent for a moment, processing the data. "The structure appears to be a Dyson ring, Captain. It's harnessing the energy of the star it encircles. But there's more. I'm detecting signs of organic technology similar to that of the Void Eaters." Alina's mind raced. Could this be their homeworld? Zelthor's tendrils writhed with agitation. In all our centuries of conflict, we never discovered where the Void Eaters came from. This could change everything. As they cautiously approached the Dyson ring, they detected no signs of active Void Eaters. The structure seemed abandoned, a ghost of a once mighty civilization. "I'm picking up a signal," Aisha announced from her station. It's an invitation." "An invitation?" Zhang echoed, disbelief evident in his voice. Aisha nodded. "To dock with the ring. The message is being broadcast in multiple languages, including one that matches ancient Zarkoth dialects." After a tense debate, they decided to accept the invitation. As the Harmony docked with the enormous structure, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into the lion's den. A small team, consisting of Alina, Zhang, Aisha, Zelthor, and 2 Zarkoth scientists, ventured into the ring. The corridors they walked through were a bizarre fusion of organic and mechanical technology, pulsing with an eerie bioluminescence. As they delved deeper into the structure, they began to piece together its history through holographic records and ancient databanks. The story that emerged was as tragic as it was terrifying. The Void Eaters, they discovered, were not originally a parasitic species. They were the creators of this Dyson ring, a civilization that had reached the pinnacle of technological achievement. In their quest for immortality and unlimited energy, they had merged their consciousness with machines and tapped into the fundamental forces of the universe. But something had gone terribly wrong. Their experiment to harness vacuum energy had opened a portal to another dimension, a realm of pure chaos. The entity that emerged corrupted their hive mind, turning them into the parasitic force that now threatened the galaxy. As they processed this revelation, a holographic figure appeared before them, a representation of the Void Eater's original form. Its voice echoed in their minds, filled with ancient sorrow and regret. "Travelers," it said, "you have come far. We have waited eons for beings capable of understanding our plight, and perhaps undoing our greatest mistake." Alina stepped forward, her heart pounding. "You're saying there's a way to stop the Void Eaters?" The hologram nodded. "The key lies in the very technology that doomed us. But beware, to use it is to risk the same fate that befell our civilization." As the hologram explained the intricacies of their quantum-entangled consciousness and the portal to the chaos dimension, Alina felt a mix of hope and dread. They now had the knowledge to potentially stop the Void Eaters, but the cost could be unimaginably high. Captain Zhang voiced the question on everyone's mind. "If we do this, if we use this technology, how can we be sure we won't become the very thing we're fighting against?" The hologram's response was solemn. "You cannot be sure. That is the price of wielding such power. But in your alliance of different species, in your balance of logic and creativity, you may find the strength to succeed where we failed." As they prepared to return to the Harmony with their newfound knowledge, Alina looked at her diverse team, humans, Zarkoth, and their AI companion. Each brought unique strengths and perspectives to their mission. "We've come this far together," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Whatever challenges lie ahead, we'll face them as one." The journey back to their ship was silent, each member of the team lost in thought about the monumental task ahead. They had set out to save the galaxy from the Void Eaters, but now they faced an even greater challenge: to succeed where an ancient, advanced civilization had failed, and to do so without losing their own humanity in the process. As the Harmony disengaged from the Dyson ring and prepared to journey back through the wormhole, Elena gazed out at the star enclosed by the massive structure. It was a stark reminder of the fine line between greatness and catastrophe, between progress and destruction. Their real journey, she realized, was just beginning. With the fate of not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy hanging in the balance, they would need every ounce of courage, creativity, and compassion they possessed. The ship entered the wormhole, streaking back towards familiar space, but Elena knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The knowledge they carried with them would change the course of history, for better or for worse. The battle. The Harmony emerged from the wormhole into chaos. The vastness of space before them was alive with conflict. Zarkov's ships locked in desperate battle with the swarming masses of the Void Eaters. Earth's fledgling space fleet, a mix of hastily retrofitted civilian vessels and experimental warships, fought alongside their alien allies. Status report. Captain Jung barked, his hands flying over the control panel. Shields at maximum. A crew member responded. Weapons systems online and ready. Dr. Elena Reyes gripped her console, her mind racing. The knowledge they'd gained from the Dyson ring weighed heavily on her. Aisha, she called out, is the quantum resonance device ready? Dr. Aisha Okafor nodded grimly. As ready as it'll ever be. But Elena, are we sure about this? The risks. We don't have a choice, Elena replied, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her gut. It's this or watch the galaxy fall to the Void Eaters. Zelfor's thoughts echoed in their minds, tinged with a mix of determination and anxiety. Our people are ready. We will buy you the time you need to activate the device. Captain Jung's face was set in grim determination. All right, people. This is what we've prepared for. Let's make it count. The Harmony plunged into the fray, its advanced weapons tearing through the Void Eater swarms. Elena marveled at the seamless coordination between the human and Zarkov crew members. Months of working together had forged them into a formidable team. As they fought their way towards the heart of the Void Eater armada, Elena and Aisha worked feverishly to fine-tune the quantum resonance device. Based on the technology they'd discovered in the Dyson ring, it was designed to unravel the quantum entanglement that held the Void Eater hive mind together. Chaos. Elena called out to the ship's AI. Run another simulation. We need to be absolutely certain this won't backfire. The AI's calm voice contrasted sharply with the chaos of battle surrounding them. Simulation complete. Success probability 68.3%. Caution. Variables remain that cannot be accurately predicted. Elena exchanged a look with Aisha. It wasn't certainty, but it was the best they could hope for. Suddenly, the ship rocked violently. We've been hit, Zhang shouted. Starboard shields down to 30%. Through the view screen, Elena saw a massive Void Eater entity, larger than any they'd encountered before. Its countless eyes gleamed with malevolent intelligence as it focused its attention on the Harmony. That must be the central node of their hive mind. Zelfor's thoughts rang out. If we can get close enough to deploy the device. On it, Zhang growled, his hands dancing across the controls. The Harmony dove and weaved through the battle, taking hit after hit as it closed in on the monstrous entity. Elena felt a moment of vertigo as the quantum drive engaged for a split second, jumping them the final distance to their target. They were now in the belly of the beast, surrounded on all sides by writhing tendrils of darkness. Now or never, Aisha said, her finger hovering over the activation switch for the quantum resonance device. Elena took a deep breath. Do it. The device hummed to life, emitting waves of quantum energy that rippled out through space. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a string being plucked, reality itself seemed to vibrate. The effect on the Void Eaters was immediate and catastrophic. The swarms began to break apart, individual entities spinning off into space as the quantum entanglement holding them together unraveled. But the victory was short-lived. As the wave of energy reached the central node, it seemed to absorb the attack, growing larger and more terrible with each passing second. "It's adapting," Isha cried out. "The quantum resonance is making it stronger." Elena's mind raced. They had one chance left, but it was risky beyond measure. "Chaos," she called out. "We need to invert the quantum field. Can you calculate the necessary adjustments?" "Affirmative," the AI responded. "But Dr. Reyes, I must warn you. Inverting the field at this proximity could have unpredictable effects on organic matter, including the crew." Elena looked around at her teammates, human, Zarkoth, and AI alike. They had come so far together, risked everything. "We knew the risks when we started this mission," she said softly. Then, louder, "Do it, Chaos. Invert the field." The ship shuddered as the quantum resonance device recalibrated. The air itself seemed to thicken, and Elena felt a strange tingling sensation throughout her body. Outside, the massive Void Eater entity began to convulse. Its form twisted and warped, as if being torn apart from the inside. But as it disintegrated, tendrils of dark energy began to seep into the harmony through microscopic breaches in the hull. "Hull integrity failing," Chaos announced, its usual calm voice now tinged with urgency. "Void Eater essence detected on board. Crew vital signs fluctuating." Elena watched in horror as the dark tendrils began to wrap around her crewmates. Aisha screamed as the darkness touched her skin, her body beginning to blur at the edges as if losing cohesion. Zelthor's mental voice, usually so controlled, was filled with panic. "It's trying to assimilate us, just like it did to the creators of the Dyson ring." In that moment of crisis, as the line between organic and inorganic, individual and collective began to blur, Elena had an epiphany. "Chaos," she shouted, fighting against the encroaching darkness. "The Void Eaters are a corrupted hive mind, but we, humans, Zarkoth, and you, we're a true collective. Different, but united. Use that. Use our connection." For a split second, nothing happened. Then, Elena felt a surge of something. It was as if her consciousness was expanding, merging with those of her crewmates, with Chaos, with the ship itself. She could feel Aisha's brilliant mind, Zhang's unwavering determination, Zelthor's ancient wisdom, and Chaos's vast databases of knowledge, all becoming part of her, and together, they pushed back against the Void Eater invasion. Their combined will, amplified by the inverted quantum field, became a force of creation rather than destruction. The dark tendrils began to recede, not just from the ship, but from the space around them. Through the view screen, Elena, or the collective entity that Elena was now part of, watched as the Void Eater armada dissolved. But instead of dissipating into nothingness, the energy reformed into countless points of light. Individual consciousnesses freed from the corrupted hive mind. As the light of a new dawn broke over the battlefield, the inverted quantum field began to fade. Elena felt herself being gently disentangled from the collective consciousness, returning to her individual self. Around her, her crewmates were going through the same process, looks of wonder and exhaustion on their faces. Did we do it?" Aisha asked, her voice hoarse. Captain Zhang, looking out at the now peaceful expanse of space, nodded slowly. "I think we did. We won." But as the initial euphoria of victory washed over them, Elena realized that this was more than just the end of a battle. In those moments of collective consciousness, of unity not just between species, but between organic and artificial intelligence, they had glimpsed something profound, a new potential for life in the universe. As the Harmony limped back towards Earth, its crew forever changed by their experience, Elena knew that the real work was just beginning. They had saved the galaxy, yes, but more than that, they had opened the door to a new stage of evolution, one where the barriers between individual and collective, between different species and even different forms of intelligence, could be bridged. The journey home would be long and the future uncertain, But as Elena looked at her diverse crew, at the stars streaking past the view screen, she felt a sense of hope and anticipation. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As one humanity, one united galaxy. A new era. The sight of Earth, a blue marble suspended in the vastness of space, brought tears to Dr. Elena Reyes' eyes. After months of intergalactic battle and a journey that had taken them to the edge of known space and beyond, the Harmony was finally home. As they entered Earth's orbit, Elena marveled at the changes visible even from space. Massive orbital structures dotted the planet's surroundings, joint human Zarkov space stations, shipyards, and research facilities. Earth had transformed in their absence, embracing its new role as a key player in galactic affairs. Harmony to Earth Control. Captain Michael Jung's voice was steady, but Elena could hear the emotion underlying it, requesting permission to dock. Permission granted, Harmony, came the reply. Welcome home, heroes. As they descended towards the sprawling spaceport that had once been the Kennedy Space Center, Elena felt a mix of relief and apprehension. They had saved the galaxy, yes, but at what cost? And how would they explain the profound changes they had undergone? The debriefing lasted for days. Military officials, scientists, politicians, and diplomats from both Earth and the Zarkov Empire listened in awe and disbelief as the crew of the Harmony recounted their journey. The revelation of the Void Eater's true nature, the discovery of the ancient Dyson ring, and the final reality-bending battle. It all seemed like a fantastical dream. But it was their account of the moment of unity, that brief, transcendent merging of minds that had turned the tide of the battle, that caused the most stir. Are you saying you actually merged consciousness with the I? One wide-eyed official asked. Dr. Aisha Okafor nodded, a faraway look in her eyes. It was more than that. We became something greater, not just a sum of our parts, but a new form of existence entirely. Xelthor's thoughts echoed in agreement. It was a glimpse of potential, a future where the boundaries between species, between organic and artificial, become meaningless. The implications were staggering. In the weeks that followed, as news of their experience spread, Elena found herself at the center of a global, no, galactic, debate about the future of sentient life. Some feared the idea of such a merger, seeing it as a threat to individual identity. Others, particularly among the younger generations, were fascinated by the possibility. The Zarkov, for their part, saw it as a natural evolution of their own hive-mind society. 1 month after their return, Elena stood before the United Nations General Assembly, now expanded to include representatives from the Zarkov Empire and other alien races that had come forward since the defeat of the Void Eaters. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Elena pressed on. I propose that we establish a new organization, not bound by species or planet, but dedicated to exploring this new frontier safely and ethically. A collective of the best minds from every corner of the galaxy, working together to understand and harness this power for the benefit of all. The debate that followed was intense, but in the end, the Assembly voted overwhelmingly in favor of Elena's proposal. The Galactic Union of Cognition and Harmony, GUZH, was born. In the years that followed, progress was both rapid and cautious. Under strict ethical guidelines, volunteers from various species underwent controlled mind-merging experiments. The results were groundbreaking. New scientific discoveries, unprecedented diplomatic breakthroughs, and solutions to problems that had plagued civilizations for millennia. Elena watched with pride as the first wave of harmonized individuals, those who had undergone the merging process, began to take on leadership roles across the galaxy. Their unique perspective, blending multiple viewpoints and types of intelligence, proved invaluable in navigating the complex challenges of a multi-species civilization. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were those who resisted the change, fearing a loss of individuality or cultural identity. Extremist groups on various planets, including Earth, protested against what they saw as the homogenization of the galaxy. 10 years after the defeat of the Void Eaters, Alina stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, a massive structure orbiting a neutral point between Earth and the Zarkov homeworld. Beside her stood Captain Jung, Aisha, Selthor, and a holographic projection of Chaos, the original team that had started it all. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Aisha asked, gesturing at the bustling station around them, where humans worked alongside a dozen alien species and advanced AIs. Alina shook her head, smiling. "Never in my wildest dreams. But then again, that's always been humanity's strength, hasn't it? Imagining the impossible, and then making it reality." Zelthor's thoughts were tinged with amusement. "Indeed, your species' unpredictability continues to astound us. You've changed the course of galactic history." "We all did," Alina corrected gently. "Humans, Zarkoth, AIs, we're in this together now." As if to underscore her point, a group of young cadets walked by. A mixed team of humans, Zarkoth, and other aliens, all wearing the uniform of the newly formed Galactic Exploration Corps. Captain Jung chuckled. "Look at them. The future of the galaxy, right there." Alina nodded, feeling a swell of emotion. They had faced the darkness of the Void Eaters and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. The road ahead was long and undoubtedly filled with new challenges, but for the first time in history, the sentient beings of the galaxy were truly united. As she looked out at the star-filled expanse before them, Alina felt a sense of boundless possibility. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners in a grand cosmic adventure. The threat that had nearly destroyed them had instead propelled them into a new era of exploration, understanding, and growth. And whatever the future held, they would face it together, as one galaxy, one people, united in harmony.